जय गुरु वंदे लोकतिलकम सात्वत वार्ता विभूषणम अमर कृत्यात् शरणम प्रबुद्धम लोकजीवनम प्रणय प्रमत्त जागदीपनम वंदे जीवन जीवनम सत्पुरुषम वंदे जीवन जीवनम सत्पुरुषम वंदे जीवन जीवनम सत्पुरुषम. I offer my heartiest obeisance and pranam to Sri Sri Thakur, to Sri Sri Bodama, Sri Sri Bodada, Acharya Dev Sri Sri Dada, and other reverend family members of Sri Sri Thakur. I also offer my Jai Guru to all of you, and depending on which part of the world you are joining from, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. The Sri Sri Thakur's ideology is infinite. It cannot be measured. We can, in any program, share but only a few drops from this fathomless ocean. Today, I am going to touch only a few topics. I know a lot has been already told and covered in various programs. We will also hear more in the subsequent programs of the Utsav. Now, the only book ever written by any prophet by one's own hands, the book Sri Sri Thakur penned and named it Satyanusaran, the Pursuit of Truth. He starts that book with this very important message with emphasis. He says, first of all, we have to wage war on weakness. We have to be bold and courageous. For weakness is sin incarnate. As long as we remain weak, we would not even take the first step that leads us towards our ultimate goal. We cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. That is what he says. Now, what is being courageous? What is being brave? He says at another point in Satyanusaran, fortune favors the brave. Faith, reliance, and sacrifice are the signs of bravery. Now, this courage can be broadly categorized as of two types. The first type is what we call as Asat Virodhi Parakram. It is like a combative opposition to evil. And that doesn't beget much good. Somebody says something wrong, you say, okay, I will muster my courage and try to fight it. The second one is Asat Nirodhi Parakram, which is a resistive restraint to evil. Understand the roots of the evil and try to strike it out in as amicable manner as possible. The essence of intention there is to weed out the evil and plant the seeds of love and compassion among people. Let me give an example, a real life example from Pujanya Bhavaida's life. Pujanya Bhavaida, when he was young, aged about 10 or 11, he would play football with his friends. But even at that tender age, he had a lot of yearning to listen to spiritual stories, anecdotes, and incidents from Sri Sri Thakur's life. And so he would go and visit an old gentleman who had accompanied Sri Sri Thakur from Pavna to Devgar. He also spent several years in Pavna in association with Sri Sri Thakur. And because he had this rich plethora of experience, he would narrate that, and many people would listen from him. So Pujina Bhavada also would go, and he would oftentimes stand at his doorsteps and listen to the stories. Now, one day when he visited that place, he noticed something, and that displeased him. He noticed that that old gentleman, so respected in the ashram, was resting his feet on a box. The box that contained Sri Sri Thakur's books. And those books had photographs of Sri Sri Thakur. It appeared to be extremely incorrect to Pujina Bhavaida. But he restrained himself from blurting it out at that point in time. He packed himself, did not participate in, in any meeting that day. And the following day, he visited the gentleman with a stool in his hands. And on noticing the same thing, he very sweetly told, Dadu, can I have a private chit chat with you? The others in the room, noticing that, they backed out of the they stepped out of the room. And then in a very sweet tone, he told, you are resting your feet on this box. Do you realize that it contains books of Sri Sri Thakur and it has photographs of Sri Sri Thakur? Immediately and instantaneously, that old gentleman, he realized his folly. He folded and says, oh, I have done a mistake. What do I do? My legs are so fragile. If I dangle them in the air, they hurt a lot. So Babaida said, I realized that. And so I have brought this stool for you. You can keep this wooden stool and rest your feet on that. Now, this is the Asat Nirodhi Parakram that we're speaking about. It's a sign of strength, a sign of ultimate courage. Even though the person was several generations older to Pujana Babaida, he did point out the mistake in a sweet manner and also addressed the root cause of the problem of the mistake by giving him a solution. He did not side him publicly, because if he had done any other action of siding publicly, that would have only created a feeling of negativism in the audience there, not only against that gentleman, but also against others, perhaps general followers of satsang. So Sri Thakur, Pujana Bawaida, being completely aware of this, using all his power of judgment, intellect, tact, even at that tender age, what he displayed is the kind of courage we all want to hone in our life. Sri Thakur therefore says in his messages, he says, resist evil with a skilled hand, it will fly off. We all have to acquire this kind of skill, and with some practice, with some thoughts and all, anybody can, um, everybody can get this kind of skill. He also says resist evil, but ensure that you don't create enmity. Now that is what normally happens. The moment we see mistake being done, especially by a person of our age or younger one, in order to showcase our supremacy or our superiority, people blurt out admonishing a person in the public. That doesn't do any good. On the contrary, the person whose mistake is being pointed out to him may start nurturing a grudge. Now, well, if we are on the receiving end, we should be conscious that we should immediately become humble and thank the person who has found a fault in us and to thank him. But then most people are not that conscious. We are not in that state of evolution. So when we are trying to give a message to somebody and our intention is to ensure that the person realizes his or her own mistake and gives that up, then we have to tell it very lovingly, very soothingly, with a tone of compassion. As you see, the evil, uh, well, this is about the personal evils. In the society, there are larger evils. The larger evils of the society are primarily due to some habitual superstitions, some prejudices that act as bonds or shackles. We have been following some customs and traditions and practices that perhaps have lived their time. Maybe even in the olden time, they were specifically given to a short group of people for a short time, or maybe to a specific community of people. Somehow, these traditions and practices have taken a larger shape and are being followed by people, even though they have lost any significance. Now, when we encounter such evils in the society, we have to try to weed them out. It, it is not easy. It may need real strength to take any step against that. Let me recount an experience from my own life. We came to the US about 4.5 years ago. Just about 2 months before we started from India, I had to visit NIT Agartala to give a technical talk. By Thakur's grace, the talk went very smooth. Following my talk, the principal and the chairman of the college, they invited me to address the staff members. I gave a talk to them as well. And we had some time. My return flight was only the following day. Based on my words and thoughts, they felt that I had a religious inclination. Many people consider the spiritual inclination and religious inclination the same. So they arranged for me to, in the sightseeing of the city, they made arrangements for me to visit a temple nearby called as Tripura Sundari Temple. It is one of the most famous temples and a place of pilgrimage for many Indians of that part of the country. So I said, fine, like I like to see architecture of old buildings, even though not from a religious sentiment, if you will, but more from curiosity to old traditions. And yes, I definitely am spiritual. So we visited the temple. I looked around. I gathered some information about the temple. It is said that it is created as if on the back of a tortoise. There is a lake nearby that has many turtles and tortoises. I was looking around. Then I saw one part of the temple which is not very usual. I asked what was that, and I was told that every day an animal was offered as a sacrifice to the goddess of the temple. That was surprising and so ironical that just in the morning of the day, I was speaking about the futuristic technologies. Our company is engaged in some research work, autonomous cars. It was very futuristic 4 5 years ago. Creating, capturing um, electric capturing the power of lightning to generate electricity or to generate generate power from air by using kites in the air, creating a network of Wi-Fi routers using balloons and so on. Now, we are talking about so advanced scientific feats that are possible in this age, and exactly in that age in one part of the country, and it's India is a large country, developing country, animal sacrifice is still being offered on a daily basis. And how stark different the stark difference in this approach is, it bewildered me. And I wanted to meet some of the priests of the temple, and I was told there are three priests. I was able to meet only two of them. Now, both these priests, separately, when I spoke to them, they acknowledged that this was not a good practice. One of them told me, he admitted that even that animal is also a child of the god. It cries when it is being pulled to the altar for sacrifice. So, while they did not approve of the practice, they did not have the guts or the courage to oppose it. I asked one of them, why don't you oppose it then? He says, no, what do I do? If I do that, they will oust me, they will remove me from the temple. So, based on some fear or the other, these priests were not able to oppose that. I tried to speak to other workers in the temple, in the kitchen and all. Some of them also agreed with my view that no, it's not good, but they were also afraid of voicing any opinion on that. But when the prophet comes and notices such vice being followed in the society, he cannot but oppose this. He has to oppose this to break these shackles, these bondages, because they together these such prejudices, they pull human beings down and do not allow them to evolve or grow. Now, I heard later that about a year ago, uh, the High Court issued an order, and there are no more sacrifices happening in that temple. It gives me such a sense of relief that after 500 plus years of ill tradition, finally it has come to a halt. Now, Sri Sri Thakur writes in the Holy Satyanusaran, the desired good of man remains hidden beneath his habitual superstitions. And the giver of good is punished only when conflict appears between the goodness he gives and the habitual superstitions. And that's why the Savior is slandered in one's own country. So sad, but it's a truth of life that when the prophet descends down with the single point mission to, through practice in one's own life, show the path of dharma, or the path that leads people to the ultimate destination, his words, his actions are not followed by everyone, and hence he has to leave his place of birth, where initially he does his mission, to a foreign land to the remainder of his mission. It has happened with every advent in the life, and Sri Thakur was no exception. He had to he had to also face the same challenges. So Thakur had to leave Pabna and come to Devgarh. Now, in another message, he gives the definition of prophet. He says, the wrapping on accustomed habits that make a man go to the dogs feels restless and uncomfortable. Though he does not like them unconsciously or subconsciously, so the prophet cannot be universally admired and worshipped. So, even though the prophet the prophet tells to everybody there with live example, with all explanation, with all sweetness, with everything, that this cannot be done, this should not be done, not everybody is going to accept and follow that. We hear the Tripura government and the judiciary system there, they have banned the practice. Now many people have accepted it. The majority of them have accepted it now. But a few people have expressed their dissent then, and I hear that they continue to express their dissent. They feel the religious rights have been subverted. So this is, I am appalled at the ignorance of people as to what do people understand by real religion. What is doing prayer? Uh, Anything that goes against the laws of nature, we cannot ever call that as propitious to life. That which does not nurture and uphold existence cannot really be a custom or a practice that we want to follow. Let me quote a verse from Sisi Thakur. Thakur says, it's in Bangla, ইষ্ট নেশার বিভোর টানে স্বাস্থ্য সিধি পালবি রে, ভালো কিছু এলেই মনে তক্ষুনি তাই করবি রে। পরিস্থিতির বাঁচা বাড়ায় যত্ন নিয়ে সর্বক্ষণ, ইষ্ট পানে উচ্চতিয়ে ধরবি তুলে তাদের মন। ইষ্টবৃত্তি জোগাড় করে নিত্য করিস নিবেদন, শক্তি পাবি মুক্তি হবি একেই বলে ধর্মায়ণ। So what he says is, with an unrepelling adherence or pull towards the ideal, follow the principles of health. It is important that an individual should keep one's health good. Now, in this current time of pandemic, every individual has been impacted in some way or the other. And in general, an awareness about health and hygiene has risen. Many, many decades ago, Thakur would tell everyone to ensure that one's health is good. We have to eat easily digestible food in appropriate quantities, small quantities. Uh, we should do appropriate labor, exercise, and all to keep our body healthy. We say that the body should be healthy. Says, when one does these good practices, good thoughts emerge in mind, and such good thoughts have to be quickly actioned upon. Many times people feel lazy, they feel lethargic, and they procrastinate on such thoughts. If we procrastinate, we remain underachievers. Every human being, when we are inspired by good ideas and good thoughts, we have to translate that into action. And then he says, remain ever vigilant and conscious about the growth of the environment. So Thakur always said that a human being's life is actually tripolar. This is, there's an individual, there's an ideal, and the environment. An individual has to nourish his life, his relationship to the ideal, and his role for the environment. All these three poles are important. So it says, remain ever vigilant and conscious about the growth of the environment. Environment here means every being living in the surroundings. It could be human beings, it could be animals, plants, trees, insects. Of course, environment also means forests, mountains, lakes, and all that. Whatever one individual should do, whatever I do, I should see that I do not try to cause harm to the environment. Rather, I should try to promote the growth of the environment and beings inside that. Then he says, hold their minds aloft in higher tiers of the ideal. So if there are people in the environment, as an individual, I should try that. I tune their mind, I draw their interest also towards the ideal. And then make arrangements for Ishtavriti. So this is about the relationship between an individual and the ideal. How do I ensure that my relationship is alive and nurtured with my ideal? So every day, an individual has to offer Ishtavriti and has to ensure that one makes arrangements with effort for that Ishtavriti. So if a person is able to do these steps sincerely, ardently, and regularly, the Thakur gives this assurance. He says, you will gain strength and liberate yourself, and this is the path of Dharma. Dharma meaning that which upholds and nurtures existence. Okay, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. I would like to conclude by praying a lotus feet of Sri Thakur, that he continues to inspire us, he continues to be our beacon. We should try, we should all, brothers and mothers in faith, should try to help each other, understand him better, follow him better, and establish him more strongly in our lives. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhaga bhavet bande purushottam.